Good morning, I'm Jack Berryman, the ACSM historian, and we're here this morning talking with Carol Garber as part of ACSM's Distinguished Leaders in Sports Medicine and Exercise Science DVD series. So welcome, Carol.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And before anything, I just want to congratulate you on your president-elect position for the college. You've got 3 exciting years ahead of you, I think. President-elect, president, past president. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
So I wanted to start with where you grew up, high school days. Were you involved in sports and that type of thing?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Connecticut, near Hartford, Connecticut, in a suburb, and I went to Manchester High School, which was a very large public high school, and I was actually quite involved in sports. I was president of the Girls Leaders Club, so we used to referee and help the physical education teachers, and we didn't really have sports teams in the sense that we do now. So, I played a lot of after-school sports, and but I really wanted to play tennis, and there was no tennis team, so I recruited some guys from the tennis team to play with me.
So it was more intramural type sports?
Right. Right. Yeah, we didn't really have any kind of interscholastic sports for women at that time.
What were the years you were at high school?
Well, I graduated in 1971.
So pre-Title IX.
Yes, exactly
is what
right.
I was wondering.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So that was a big change, Title IX, but it didn't help your high school career
much. And it didn't really help my college either.
That was going to be my next question. It happened too fast. So you went straight from high school to college.
Right. So I went to the University of Connecticut, which was in Storrs. So that was about 20 minutes from my family home. And it actually wasn't my first choice, but my father worked for the telephone company, and he used to help to televise UConn basketball before it was so well known as now, and he just loved UConn, and it was like, you can go anywhere you want as long as it's UConn.
Well, my father worked for the telephone company too in Pennsylvania. So was UConn always the Huskies?
It was always the Huskies, although the logo has changed over the years, but yes, it's always been a Husky school.
So what did you decide to major in when you went to undergrad?
I started in biology. I was actually very interested in marine biology, and started out as a bio major, and I got turned off by those huge classes, chemistry, and that I'm not sure I really want to do this. So I actually went through the catalog, and I found out what was a major, so I didn't have to continue taking chemistry. And I found recreational service education, which sort of met all my interests.
I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, so it was, sports, but it was, liberal arts, really. We got to take a lot of different courses.
And it wasn't necessarily preparing you to be a coach or a physical education teacher, but to someone that would work in a broader recreational field, which is pretty broad.
Exactly, and I had worked at summer camp, so I was just really excited.
Like a neat major.
Yeah, I was excited about camp, and I thought this major was great because you could take everything. We took economics and psychology and sociology.
A well-rounded person.
Right. Yeah. PE, and it was fun.
So you finished your bachelor's degree.
I did.
Did you decide to do advanced study at that point, or?
No, I didn't. Actually, I went to, I got a job at the YMCA, and I worked at a medium-sized YMCA. I was hired there as the first woman staff.
In Connecticut?
Actually, I went to Rhode Island, and but my role was, I was called the Women's and Girls Director, and that was the first time they had ever had such a thing.
A fun job.
Yeah, it was a fun job. I, worked with little babies all the way to older people and kids, and I coached some sports, and It was very fun, but it was like night and day working and weekends, and
Yeah, never ending.
it never ended.
So what year did you go to to Rhode Island then?
Well, it was a few months after I graduated. I graduated in the summer of 1975, and then the economy wasn't very good in that year, so it took me till January to get a position. So that was when I started.
And you stayed there for how long?
About a year and a half, which seemed like a long time then, but I became very interested while I was there in sort of health and fitness, and decided that I really wanted to focus more in the health area and started to explore different options, and that was when I actually discovered that there was something called exercise physiology.
Oh, very neat. And you hadn't really heard about it as an undergrad, really?
No, no, not at all. I mean,
UConn.
yeah, I mean, UConn, they had one course in exercise physiology that they sort of instituted towards the end of my time there, but they actually didn't have a major.
But did you have to take that class, though? Were you as an undergrad, or had you gone by the time they started that?
No, I had already gone, so I had never actually
Okay.
taken it.
Okay. So you realize probably if I'm going to do this, I need a master's degree.
Correct, correct. So at that point, I was living in Rhode Island, and you know, I did some exploration. By that point, UConn did have an exercise physiology program, and then Boston University had a program, and yeah, UConn was still much cheaper, and I had come to really love that place, so I applied and was accepted a master's program there in exercise physiology.
Who was the person there then that you would have to study under, or do the exercise physiology person?
I studied, when I started, it was under John Billings, and I actually took a little break when I had my son. So he was there when I started. I took some time off and then came back, and then I worked under David Camione, because John had left to go to North Carolina.
And you did a master's. Did you stay and do a Ph.D. or?
I did, and you know, I had no intention when I started, but part of our master's program, we needed to do some kind of practical experience. And I found, because I was still living in Rhode Island, I was commuting to UConn, and I found a local hospital where they had cardiac rehabilitation, and they also had a research lab. So I went there, and I was accepted as a volunteer. So I worked in their research lab and with cardiac rehabilitation, and I loved it.
Now, this is when you were still doing your master's?
Right, exactly. It was part of my master's, and I just fell in love with research then, and that was why I decided to stay on for the doctoral program at UConn.
Okay. And what did you do your research in for your PhD?
Well, because I was in a hospital, I was interested in cardiac rehab and clinical work. I did work on, we were studying myocardial ischemia and how different types of exercise actually affects when people would experience ischemia or feel symptoms of angina. So.
And so you finished your PhD. Did you hear about ACSM during that time as a doctoral student, or do you remember?
I did. I mean, I think the first time I did anything with ACSM, I went to the New England ACSM chapter meeting. Sure. I think that was 1982, and you know, again, just had such a great experience that you know, I started to get involved in the chapter, and then I think the first annual meeting I went to was the one in Montreal, Canada.
Oh, that was the joint meeting with the Canadian group.
Yes, yes. So then I was hooked.
Yeah. Okay. Had you finished your doctorate then?
No, no. I took the slow route through all of my graduate career because I, you know, had.
You were having a family too, right?
Right. So I had, you know, I have just one son, but that was a handful, and
that was
you know, trying to go to school, and then the research lab where I had done my internship hired me as a part-time person,
that was
and
nice.
which was great. But towards the middle of my doctoral degree, my mentor had left, and then I was offered the job. So I actually took that on while I was still trying to do my doctoral work.
Wow.
So
So you were working pretty much full time.
yeah, I was pretty busy.
Yeah. So then next step, you get your Ph.D. Where did you go next?
I actually stayed in the hospital where I had been working, and my job, I was then received a faculty appointment at the Brown Medical School, and I.
So what town is that?
That's in Providence, Rhode Island.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have your Ph.D. You're working there now full time, and you're at Columbia now, right?
Yes, I am.
So was there a stop in between, or did you go, or maybe several stops?
Yeah. No, I had one stop between the two. I actually stayed at Brown for about 18 years, and I loved, it was half clinical,
great place.
half research, and it was great. I ended up taking a position at Northeastern University because I really enjoyed the teaching aspect of my work, and it was a clinical program. It just fit me perfectly. So I went there for 7 years, and then I saw the position at Columbia, and they had much more opportunity to do research and to work with doctoral students. So I've been there for about 6 years now.
No concern about moving to New York, I guess, or?
Well,
we were in Boston anyhow.
yeah, well, I like,
Providence,
I like cities. It was a little complicated from a personal standpoint to try to make this work, but actually my husband and I had always thought, boy, wouldn't it be great to retire to New York? So
everything's there, and
so
a pretty vibrant place.
Yes, it's a great place to be.
Were you involved? You said about the New England chapter. What other things have you done in ACSM along the way?
Quite a lot of things. So I
figured.
went through all the different seats, I think, at the New England chapter, and then I think I first got involved at ACSM with membership committee. I worked for a number of years with certification committee, and I've been on a lot of different task forces.
Board? Were you
a board
a
couple of times, and then vice president, and now about to be president. So that's really pretty exciting. And
one of the things I like to ask everyone is what ACSM has meant in your career, over the years. Is it the main group, that professional group that you go to their meetings, and are there other groups that you're involved in, or is this pretty much the...
This is my home. I really view this as my professional home, and where my closest friends and colleagues. I mean, it's just been a wonderful experience. I have been also involved with the American Heart Association, more on the local level and regional level, but I wouldn't consider that my home. This is really it.
What have you been doing, I should say, rephrase it, what kind of research and publications and so forth have you done since you left Brown? I mean, you've probably done...
Well, I've done a number of things. It's been real transition in terms of going from a clinical setting to university academic setting, and I do clinically oriented research. So I'm now doing much more community-based exercise research. I'm working with a pretty broad range of people with chronic diseases. So we're currently doing a home-based exercise program for children and adults with a fairly rare neuromuscular disease called spinal muscular atrophy. We're about to start a project with people with HIV, and some work with some cancer survivors. So it's pretty broad focus of my work.
Are there grants for this? I mean, is there funding for this out there? Or?
There's some. I mean, the project with the spinal muscular atrophy is actually funded for some reason by the Department of Defense. I think it might be one of those congressional earmarks, but it works because it's such a rare disease. But it's really something that has
it's federal money.
Yes.
So.
yes. And the other areas, certainly NIH and, you know, Heart Association, some of the voluntary health organizations would support, but.
So what's in store for the president-elect? I mean, are you, I assume you're in charge of the program, I guess, is the big one for
That's
next
right.
year.
I am in charge of the program. I'm still just learning all of what that means, but you know, I definitely have some ideas of, you know, how to put my imprint and you know, really looking forward to trying to figure out how to make the program reflect what, you know, the such diverse constituency of ACSM. But
Well, the good news is they have great staff, as
yes,
you know.
I know. I don't
So
think we could survive without them.
They really help a lot. And you get to pick the president's lectures, or the,
Yes.
is that what it's called?
Yeah, you know,
president.
right, and the Wolf lecture and
Yeah,
Dill
and the Dill
lecture.
and
So
all that. So that's
yeah,
exciting
no, it's
as
very,
well.
it's all very exciting. I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to this.
Yeah. Well, time's flying.
Yes.
So let me think. There's another question I wanted to ask you. Oh, yes. So are you teaching classes now too?
Yes.
So
yes.
what kind of classes are you teaching?
Well, I actually am the director of our graduate program. We have just graduate program at our college.
No
I'm at-
undergrads?
No undergrad. So it's
Wow.
actually Josephine Rathbone's
Yes.
home institution,
Absolutely.
Teachers College,
Yeah.
and so. But the classes I teach, I've been. You know, I teach a variety of classes. I've been teaching exercise physiology. My most favorite is exercise and health, and
Yeah.
then we lead several seminars. We have a lot of research seminars for our master's and doctoral students. So those are my primary
So
responsibilities.
these are pretty small classes.
Well, you would think so, but we
That's what I
actually
would think,
we
yeah.
actually have a fairly large program. We also have a combined program with nutrition. And so, some of the core courses, we might have anywhere from 30 to 45 students in them. So,
nice.
so they're not very small, but the laboratory-based classes, seminars are much smaller.
So you have a master's and a Ph.D. at Columbia?
Yes.
Okay.
We actually have 2 different masters and 2 different
So
doctoral
two different
degrees.
tracks, basically?
Yes.
Okay. And what are they? Or-
Well, we have an MA, 1-year program. We have a 2-year Master of Education, which is really the research thesis.
And so the other's a
option.
non-thesis option?
Right.
The MA?
Right. Yeah. And then, although they do some kind of final culminating project of some sort, and then the doctoral program, we have an EDD and a PhD.
Well, of course,
and
Columbia teachers
Right.
call, the
Right.
EDD.
Right. But our EDD is much more like a PhD. It's really a place where students who may not be able to go full time, because they're working as faculty.
But they're doing a dissertation. And
Absolutely. It's very
everything,
much research based.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, one last thing. I don't want to put you on the spot as the incoming president, but I ask everyone this. You've been involved in the college a long time, and where do you see the college going, and has ACSM been doing the right thing over the years? And I just wondered if you had any ideas about that.
Well, no, I think, we've really done a great job, but, I think the challenge is always trying to make sure that we're doing enough for the different constituency groups. But I've actually been spending time this past year, and will continue really think we need to pay more attention to the regional chapters and, how we can really work together with them and support them. But, they are really vital for us to do
I think
the
that's a good
next
point,
step.
because that's where I think a lot of the graduate students get involved.
Exactly.
And they're the future of the group. And,
Absolutely.
they're on the ground floor, so to speak, and work
Right.
their way up through. And I think
Right.
that's a very, very good point.
Right, and I think there's a lot of activities that we're working on now with that really require some grassroots efforts, and I think that there's a lot of ways that they can be much more engaged in, our common goals we have as an organization.
Yeah. Have you been involved with the summit?
I've not, but I'm actually going to be going to the planning committee for the
Yeah.
first time
Because
this year.
it's such a, that I think was just a great
Yeah.
idea,
Oh,
because
I think
talk
it's-
about constituents. I mean, they're starting out at the YMCA.
Right,
and-
exactly.
And with the cardiac rehab and all that, I mean, it's just a perfect entree into
Right.
into that world that's not
Right.
academic, you know, college-based.
Right, right, and I think
individuals.
it's a nice place to bring in the science, you know, to bring it
Absolutely,
down
yeah.
to the practice, and
Yeah.
I think it's a really important thing that we do, because so many people really benefit from our knowledge, but, you know, unless people are out there using it, it's not really
Yeah,
very
and the Health
helpful.
and Fitness Journal
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
filled that. You know, they may not want to read MSSE, but
Yeah,
the Health
exactly.
and Fitness Journal is
Yeah.
good too.
It's a nice journal. A couple of my graduate students have taken some of their early literature reviews and actually published in
Oh,
the,
good.
So
Good.
I've encouraged them to get out there and, you know, share some of their knowledge.
Yeah. So you always have a few doctoral students probably that you're working with.
Yeah, so
As
probably
well.
too many, but
Yeah, isn't that-
but they're really they're wonderful. I really have a lot of admiration for them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you, Carol. 30+ minutes just flew
Well,
by.
It did. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I
really
appreciate it.
It was fun.
Thanks.